This is Physics with Mr. Granger. This video accompanies the lesson 102, What Makes a Good Boat. And in this video, we are going to look at how do we make a bar graph from our data. This is some of the data that we collected in class. In this experiment, we put marbles in a boat until it sank. The number of marbles is how many marbles the boat could hold before it sank. The assignment is to make a bar graph of our data. We make bar graphs because it is easier to present data in a graph than it is on a table. As you put more and more numbers on a data table, it becomes harder and harder to see a pattern. So if we want to sort of present our findings of which boat is going to be able to hold the most marbles, it's best to put it on a graph. I have 3 of the boats here from one of our classes, and I am going to focus on graphing just these 3, super boat, better boat, and the real best boat. I gave you a piece of paper that looks something like this in class, and I think before we get started, we should just go over the parts of a graph. Each graph is going to start with 2 lines. We want to draw these lines directly onto one of the light gray lines on the graph paper. It's going to be really important that we're precise with where we put lines when we're making a graph because we're going to be using the space on the paper to represent numbers. So if we're not careful, we will be representing the wrong numbers. We are going to put all of these things on our graph. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about generally where things go on a graph, and then I will show how these things here will go on the graph that we're going to make. The independent variable goes here. The dependent variable goes here. And the graph is always titled dependent variable versus independent variable. And I remember this because we read it from this way left to right. We see dependent variable before we see independent variable. Okay, but what is the independent variable? What is the dependent variable? And what does it mean to put them on a graph? Let's go back to our notes from class. And let's look here where I define them. I have a definition for variable here, independent variable, and dependent variable. Okay, so a variable is something that changes. The independent variable is the thing that we know before the experiment. And the dependent variable is the thing that you find out by doing the experiment, the thing that you measure, and you can commonly identify what you're measuring by what number you are writing down. Let's go back and look at our data table again. Let me go ahead and make a copy of this. And now I'm going to put in the things for here. Okay. So the independent variable is the boat, because we knew what the boat was. We knew the name of the boat before we started measuring. So I'm going to take this is my independent variable, and I'm going to put it here on my horizontal axis. I'm going to leave space here so I can label the individual boats. The dependent variable are the numbers we wrote down. We wrote down these numbers. That means it was the number of marbles. The title is dependent variable. Number of marbles versus independent variable. What does it mean to put the boat name variable on the horizontal axis? Let's go ahead and get our boat names. Now I said you guys could abbreviate the boats. So let's bring these here. I'm going to just do this here just so I have a little bit of space. I think it froze on me. Superboat is going to be SB. Better boat will be BB, and the real best boat TRBB. You know, it's not a bad idea to use different colors for the different boats as well. And since this is a key that is going to help us understand our graph, that makes this a legend. When I add these to the horizontal axis, what I'm doing is I'm creating a space to represent the number value for the number of marbles. When you're graphing, you want to fill the space as much as possible. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes to represent each boat. Next, we have to put the corresponding value down, or the number of marbles, for each of the boats. Let's get those numbers. So I'm going to graph 9 marbles for Superboat, 26 marbles for Better Boat, and 8 marbles for the inappropriately named Real Best Boat. I can have each of these boxes represent however many marbles I want. Again, I want to fill my space. The biggest number I have to make here is 26. So if I count by twos, I should have just enough space to get all of my data in. Notice that I'm putting my numbers on the lines because it is the lines that represent these numbers. Where is the number 9 here? It's going to be right in between 8 and 10. I'm going to draw a line here and here. I can be fancy and I can put the number 9 up here and tell the viewer exactly the number of marbles so they don't have to guess. And I'll fill this in this color. And I know that this bar represents the number 9 because it is 9 high here. 26 is going to require I do all of them. And it's actually going to ruin my trend. I'm not going to be able to put the number 26 above here. You know, I think I know a way to do this. Okay. I'm going to be double fancy though. Can I get a bigger pen here? I'll go all the way up to the top. Do this so we can see it still. The last number I'm going to try to represent on the graph is 8. Okay, and we have 8 here on our number of marbles, so we just need to make a bar that is 8 high. And this will help, having these numbers here will help distinguish between 9 and 8 because they're so close together. Okay, and that is how we make a bar graph, and we make bar graphs because this is much nicer to look at than this. What I need you to do now is I need you to make the graph for all of the data that your class collected.